Hey everyone, what up? Matt Kaiser here. Now, it's been a year since I did my video on top 5 JRPGs I would love to see be remade. And not only has that video performed well, but has even aged well, given that one of my dreams has actually come true. Let's go! And furthermore, we've been getting some really great JRPG remakes this year, with things like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Persona 3 Reload, Saga 2 Revenge of the 7, and Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake. And next year, we're getting lots of exciting new remakes. So with that, I thought, why not do a follow-up and list down 5 more JRPGs that deserve a remake. But before we begin, if you like what you're seeing here, then by all means, like the video, click the subscribe button if you're new, and hit that bell notification icon if you want more RPG content from yours truly. And with that said, let's get back to the video. So just like before, the same rules apply, that being first it's gonna be, well, my opinion of what JRPGs I think deserve a remake, and I'll try to at least have one per entry so it wouldn't be the same franchise all over again. And without further wasting, let's get on straight to the list with my number 5. Now for my number 5 pick, I'm actually going to cheat a little bit, as it's actually 2 picks for 1.
What? What the fuck?
But don't worry, everything else will be just fine and just be one game entirely. And my pick would have to be both Atelier Ellie and Atelier Lily. Now these 2 games are both the respective second and third game in the long-running Atelier series, and the follow-ups to the Salzburg trilogy in the form of Atelier Marie, and I think it will be a good time for them to get remade sometime after the release of, say, Atelier Yumiya and Atelier Resliana, as I think those 2 are due for a remake, especially given the fact that, well, we just had the Atelier Marie remake last year, and that was a pretty good remake all things considered, so having the remainder of the Salzburg trilogy just being brought back in modern consoles on par with Marie would be a very good pick and make the Atelier series a lot more accessible, as I think older veterans and newer fans who got into the series have never experienced the Salzburg trilogy, given the fact that, well, they never officially came to the West around that time. So how would I want those 2 games to be remade? Well, personally speaking, I think that the style that Atelier Marie remake has provided is a good style to follow on with both Ellie and Lily, having this cute, beautiful and wonderful chibi art style that's just so adorable, while still having some really nice full-on character portraits in 2D, among also having the quality of life features that the Marie remake have, especially the option to either play the games in either its original time limit or have no time limit at all, so anyone who's not pressured by time limits can, play them without any, pressure put onto them. Among also having a nice rearranged soundtrack, and also the option to even have the original versions also ported and localized alongside the remakes, just like they did with the Marie remake with Atelier Marie Plus, as I think having those accessibility things, especially for the older titles, is a good call, and that's something I really want, especially for the Atelier series. So those 2 are my pick for number 5. Now coming at number 4 we have is Terranigma. Now this is an interesting game, as it was originally an action role-playing game that was released for the Super Famicom in 1995, and it was published by NX themselves, being developed by Quintet. And this game did come outside Japan in 1996, and that was published by Nintendo. Now this game is beloved by many for having amazing graphics at the time, as well as wonderful gameplay and amazing story. However, while amazing and awesome that Terranigma is, it did have one massive problem, and it's the fact that this game never got a full-on American release, as this game was only available for the PAL region, so that means anyone from Europe or Australia can be able to play this game, while as for America, they just can't, and that's just a massive shame really. And this game never got a full-on re-release. Now how should they do this? I personally think that they should give it like an HD 2D remake, similar to how Live Alive remake, especially as that was a much more obscure game that never got a full-on Western release until its brand new remake in 2022. And they could have some new quality of life features, among also having a beautiful HD 2D presentation, having also full-on voice acting, and maybe some other new features like a brand new rearranged soundtrack, and being available for platforms. Now the sad thing here is that it may be a little bit difficult that the original developer, Quintet, currently might be defunct at the moment, and there's some legal issues or whatnot that might prevent our actual re-release. So it's tough to say whether or not that this game would ever come to the West, especially the American branch, which is a massive shame because I would have loved to play this officially, but overall it's a damn shame, and I do hope that, given the fact that Nintendo wanted to remake Live Live, I would hope that Nintendo would have an interest in remaking this game as well. But we can only hope and hope for the best. And speaking of Super Famicom remakes, we have next up for number 3 would have to be Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War. Now the main reason why I didn't put this up higher is given to multiple factors. Given the fact that 1A, we do know that it's eventually happening given the track record of Intelligent Systems remaking some of the older games, with them already have been remaking Fire Emblem 1, 2 and 3, with 4 likely being the next one approaching. And also we also had a massive Fire Emblem leak around 2020 with things like having a spin-off which turned out to be Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes, an anniversary mainline which turned out to be Engage, and the other one being a remake which is likely gonna be Fire Emblem 4. And also evident given the fact that in Engage, Sigurd, the main character from that game, is the most present legacy character, second only to Marth. So I do think that a Fire Emblem 4 remake is coming. And this is an interesting game, as this game was one that added a lot of new things that made a staple to the series. Most notably, what this game introduced was the whole weapon triangle, which then became a full-on staple with the main series. Not only that, but this game has an interesting story, even if, from what I hear, it's also controversial on how the story is told and how certain themes about it is pretty much dark or just disturbing and whatnot. So how would they do a remake of this? Now there's been multiple discussions of how an art style could do, as I don't think that Fire Emblem Engage's art style would be a good approach, especially when Fire Emblem 4 from what I hear is one of the more darker games in the series. So I do think that a good way to convey this game in a new light would have to be an art style that's similar to say Fire Emblem Three Houses but more advanced and more improved, something akin to say the Fire Emblem Warriors models and even aspects of the CG movies that were in the 3DS Fire Emblem games, things like say Awakening and Fates, as I think a lot of those mixed with say the Samurai Warriors art style that they have would be a good call. And they could also have just improved combat and improved maps and whatnot that still makes it fun to play, akin to say recently with Fire Emblem Engage, as I really do like the combat in that game, even if it does have some flaws. But outside of that, upon also having an amazing soundtrack, and likely they're gonna do some adjustments to the main story and add some new things, like they did with Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia, which was a remake of Fire Emblem Guardian. I don't have too much to say about what I expect from this remake, other than I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully this does get revealed soon, maybe around when the Nintendo Switch 2 comes, which would be a good call in my book, but that would be my number 3. And for number 2 we have is Ys 5 Kefin the Lost Kingdom of Sand.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating. and it gets everywhere.
Now, Ys 5 is considered to be the black sheep of the mainline Ys games, given on multiple things, given the fact that, well, this game was originally released for the Super Famicom, and thus it didn't do great, given the things like on how the visuals were impacted that made this game look generic, especially compared to the prior Ys games, among also the fact that magic in this game was completely useless, and the combat just didn't feel good, and the game was considered too easy, and this game never got a full-on remake or re-release even afterwards. And given the fact that, well, Ys has been doing relatively well, especially with the release of Ys Technotics, and the fact that Falcom has been dabbled in doing a brand new remake, especially with the upcoming Trails in the Sky the First, which mind you looks absolutely amazing, I do think that we are in overdue for an Ys 5 remake, given that fact that also Falcom does do remakes of their past games, like they did one for Ys 1 and 2, as well as Ys 3, which became Open Falgana, as well as Ys 4 Memories of Celceta, which that's the remake of the original Ys 4. I do think having a remake of Ys 5 is long overdue. Now, how should they do this? Now, given as we just mentioned that Falcom's approach to remakes is to use the latest framework of like the mainline game just for the remake of it, like having reused assets as well as a similar battle system but more improved, as well as a similar art style, as the Trails in the Sky remake is likely taking aspects through Trails for Daybreak. I would gladly expect Ys 5 remake to take aspects of, like, say, Ys Technotics with the whole dual combat system with having, a character alongside you for some impressive dual attacks that are more just, pumped and just more challenging as a result. It's just, I think, a good basis of this game, and they could also have things like, an amazing soundtrack, as I heard that the original soundtrack for Ys 5 is not that great, among also having magic being actually useful and other improved elements that were carried from Ys 10. I think that alone and other things that they could do to the story, heck, maybe even possible add Doki as a playable character, please? But outside of that, I do think that we're long overdue for an Ys 5 remake, and I think taking the aspects of Ys Technotics would help make an amazing framework, especially for an Ys 5 remake. And coming at number 1 we have is Persona 2, most notably both Innocent Sin and Eternal Punishment. Now, Persona 2 Duology, for example, is an interesting game, much like on how Persona 3 has made different variants from its original game to FES to portable to even reload. I do think that Persona 2 does deserve a release of some kind, given the fact that it and Persona 1 are completely different from the Persona series and they never got a full-on re-release, despite that we already got a re-release of Persona 3, 4 and 5 on modern platforms. Well, mainly just Persona 3 Portable, while the original and FES version did get a full-on remake with Persona 3 Reload. I do think that they should logically do a remake for Persona 2, given that the duology is basically a two-parter, with Innocent Sin, which was the PSP version based on the original PS1 version in 1999, was the first half of Persona 2, while Eternal Punishment that was actually released in 2000 and only for the PlayStation 1 as well as PSP Portable is basically the second half. And I think a remake that's similar to the style of say Persona 3 Reload, or still merging both two games into one full-on game, having Innocent Sin and Eternal Punishment merged together would be a good call. And even having it being remade for the Unreal Engine 4, similar to Persona 3 Reload, where character modes get a much needed update, and still supporting having full-on voice acting and much needed quality of life features and improved gameplay mechanics, would be an amazing call. Obviously, there might be some changes to some of the story, given the fact that one of the main villains for Persona 2 is based on a particular historic figure that, well, if you know, you know. Among also the fact that, well, the gameplay for my hair has aged a bit. Now, I wouldn't say that, obviously, that this game should have, like, say, a calendar system, as I do think that Persona 2 Remake should be a lot more faithful, but I still think it should still have some newfound quality of life features that ease new players in, while not making it, too much that will deviate from the general fans who like Persona 2 and in general. So I do think a Persona 2 Remake would combine both parts and letting aspects of those parts into one full game, while adding some new things that weren't present in both releases, would be a great call in my book and be a definitive version for Persona 2. And that would have to be my list. That is 5 more JRPGs I think deserve a remake. Let me know down in the comments if you agree with this list and have other remake choices of your own that you'd love to see, get a full on remake. I'd love to see more of this later down the line and hope any of my wishes, just like the last list, would come true at some point. But until then, Mad Kaiser out.